The LEGO movies are some of the best movies ever made, but the sets LEGO made for them might be even better. They don't just look cool, they're packed with Easter eggs and references to so much stuff. From Emmet's car having a radio so he can listen to Everything is Awesome, to a minifigure of Lord Business playing golf after retiring from evil doing. These are 24 small details you missed in the LEGO movie themes. Starting with this small vehicle attached to the side of Benny's spaceship. Now, you might look at it and see a fun little mini build, but if you're a fan of the classic space theme, you would have noticed something immediately. The vehicle has a print that says LL929, which makes it a direct reference to the LL928 Galaxy Explorer from 1979. Pretty much every set from Classic Space had its set number printed somewhere on it. So not only is it a reference to the Galaxy Explorer, but it's accurate to Classic Space as a whole. But the side vehicle isn't the only Classic Space reference hiding in the LEGO movie sets, because the Benny Space Squad polybag managed to reference not one, but two separate sets from 1979 in one singular build. The 885 Space Scooter and the 886 Space Buggy were both sets from the very first wave of LEGO Space. So to see them again all those years later probably made parents really happy. And while we're talking about Benny, the Robo pilot figure that comes with Benny's spaceship has a detail that most people wouldn't think twice about. His visor is red, but it's not just any red. It's specifically the color used by space police. This sub-theme from the late 80s first introduced cops and villains into the classic space universe. It's niche enough that even people who grew up with LEGO back then might not really remember it when they first opened the box. Now, stepping away from Benny for a second, Emmet's car in the double-decker couch set has a printed radio tile on the dashboard. This is obviously here so he can listen to Everything is Awesome while he drives around. People like this detail so much that it's one of the only reasons they even buy the set, so I couldn't leave it out. But speaking of Emmet, his dream house from the LEGO Movie 2 has a design that you wouldn't even realize is a reference. The house looks pretty chunky compared to modern day LEGO houses, and it's made almost entirely with primary colors. But if you grew up with LEGO in the 70s, this would feel really familiar. The house uses the design language of classic LEGO townhouses from back then. This is the exact style that defined what a LEGO home looked like for an entire generation. So when Emmet finally builds the house he's always wanted in the movie, it ends up looking like a set from 50 years ago. Switching gears though, the Rex Celsior set is already a lot to take in just on the outside. But if you look at the inside, there are some micro builds that reference other sets from the same era. LEGO does this a lot in Ninjago and modular buildings, so it's cool to see that people from the LEGO movie universe also build LEGO sets. But now, let's get into the Apocalypseburg set, because this one might have more hidden details than anything else in the LEGO movie themes. And the first one I want to talk about involves a wanted poster. You'll find one with a face on it, and that face belongs to Justin Ramsden, one of the actual LEGO designers who worked on the set. Usually when designers put signatures in their sets, it's something really subtle. Like when Jan Voschnida added Polish flags to the Tales of the Space Age set. But Justin isn't the only thing hiding in the walls of Apocalypseburg, because if you look at the buildings themselves, one of them has a window AC unit that uses a piece clearly based on the Batmobile. Batman is already all over this set, but someone decided that the most recognizable symbol of Gotham City should be repurposed as a wall-mounted AC unit in the ruins of a city. The comparison between the Batmobile and the air conditioner is immediately obvious once you know to look for it, and it's a really funny way of world building by LEGO. There's also a punching bag in Apocalypseburg that's decorated with a Duplo alien face, and the important thing here is that it's not a sticker. Obviously, Duplo doesn't use the same pieces as regular LEGO, but somehow the designers of this set were able to fully recreate something from Duplo using regular LEGO pieces. This was probably insanely difficult, and it just goes to show how dedicated the designers were when they made this set. But the most recognizable landmark in all of Apocalypseburg is probably the half-buried Statue of Liberty, and it's actually referencing the first Planet of the Apes movie from 1968. It's a direct reference to one of the most famous twist endings in film history. Charlton Heston is on the beach, the statue is buried in sand, civilization is gone. In that movie, the statue being buried was the most obvious way to show that civilization was really done for. So LEGO did the same thing in this set. But right next to all of the rubble is a printed poster that's somehow two separate jokes in one. It takes the Planet of the Apes scenery and combines it with Where Are My Pants?, Emmet's favorite TV show of all time. The full joke only really lands if you've seen both movies, so this poster was only made for someone with a very specific set of memories in their head, or else they just wouldn't get it. In a different part of Apocalypseburg, though, there's this coffee shop called Coffee Unchained, which is a reference to Django Unchained. Shocker, I know. But it's also a direct continuation of the coffee gag from the first movie, where a simple cup of overpriced coffee represented everything Emmet aspired to be. It was his one small luxury in a very mundane, ordinary life. So the fact that even after the world ended, someone kept the coffee shop running and gave it a pun for a name is pretty funny. Now, Wildstyle's side of Apocalypseburg also has a few hidden details. So let's start with her mailbox. It has a Green Lantern power ring inside with no real explanation whatsoever. LEGO gives you zero context for why it's there or who it belongs to. Obviously, DC is very present in this set, and Green Lantern himself is in the LEGO movie, but his ring being here makes no sense. However, there's a really emotionally loaded detail in Wildstyle's section that's actually inside her bed. As we all know, she broke up with Batman at the end of the first movie to be with Emmet. But in the second movie, we find out that she held on to some stuff from her relationship with Batman, and LEGO decided to include them in this set. Under her bed, you can find a drawing of Batman and a letter from him that's addressed to her using her real name, Lucy. I'm not really sure what this implies, but I just hope the end of the first movie wasn't for nothing. And speaking of the first movie, one of the play features built into Apocalypseburg is a spring-loaded chair launching mechanism that's engineered specifically to recreate the interrogation scene from the first movie. You know the one. It's unbelievably popular, because while Bad Cop is interrogating Emmet, he's throwing chairs around to try and scare him into giving him answers. It's one of the best play features in the set, but I think this next reference is really gonna surprise you. Somewhere in Apocalypseburg, there's a train car that might be referencing Spider-Man. Now, it's a complete shot in the dark, but in Brickset's review, they pointed out how the train car looks similar to the one from the Spider-Man's train rescue set. That set is obviously based on the scene where Spider-Man stops a runaway train, and if this reference is true, that means Apocalypseburg was referencing the same thing. Like I said, it's definitely a long shot, but moving on from that, there's also something in this set for fans of LEGO Model Team, a theme from the late 80s and early 90s that had big, highly detailed vehicles. Model Team isn't as iconic as Classic Space or Pirates. It's sort of in the middle ground where some fans remember it and everyone else has never heard of it. So finding a reference to it tucked into a 2019 LEGO movie set makes you think the designer was leaving a message for a very small number of people and knew no one else would bat an eye. But now, I want to switch gears and look at a minifigure for a change, and the one I want to focus on in particular is Abraham Lincoln, because he has a few very interesting details about him. The first one has to do with his accessory. It's just a regular tile piece, but LEGO printed the famous opening to the Gettysburg Address on it, which was of course given by Abraham Lincoln. It's one of many important pieces of history surrounding Abe, but the other cool detail about him is in one of his pieces. As you can see, his beard is a molded piece, unlike a lot of other minifigures who just get their beards printed right onto their faceplate. But that's not the cool part. His beard is actually attached to his giant hat. They're both one giant piece. Jay's Brick Blog pointed out how he can't tell if this is a good thing or not, since no matter what minifig you put this piece on, they'll just end up looking like Abraham Lincoln. But I don't know, I think that might be kind of funny. Anyways, keeping the minifigure train going, in the LEGO Movie 2 CMF series, the Scarecrow comes with a printed diploma tile. It specifically references his THD, or his Doctor of Thinkology, which is the degree the wizard awards him with at the end of The Wizard of Oz. This reference is from a movie almost almost 100 years old on a blind bag minifigure that most people are just gonna put on a shelf and never look at again. So a reference this deep is pretty crazy when you think about it. But the Wizard of Oz details don't stop at the diploma, because the Tin Man from the same series has a printed tile showing the heart-shaped pocket watch that the wizard gives him at the end of the movie. This was a physical object meant to represent his new awakening to emotions. The prop is on screen for maybe 60 seconds out of an hour-and-a-half long movie. But because everything built up to that moment, it makes sense why LEGO made it as an accessory. But now, let's talk about Rex Danger Vest CMF variants, because there's a lot going on with them. The Vest Friend Rex figure has a faceplate that looks a lot like the aesthetic from Alpha Team, a theme that ran from 2001 to 2005 and has since drifted off into the abyss of retired LEGO. It's not completely forgotten, but it's niche enough that catching the reference requires a lot of LEGO knowledge. But the bigger detail on that same minifig is right there on the torso. Vest Friend Rex wears a construction worker outfit in the same style that Emmet wore in the first movie. At the time of release, before anyone had seen the second movie, it just looked like a fun alternate outfit for a new character. But after the second movie came out, this was clearly foreshadowing. Later we found out Rex Danger Vest is the future version of Emmet, and LEGO dressed him in Emmet's clothes before the film even came out. It wasn't really a spoiler, so it's not like it gave anything away, but I have to say, LEGO cut it really close. But the Gone Golfin' President Business minifig from the LEGO Movie 2 is a very funny variant of Lord Business in a polo shirt and khakis holding a golf club, living his best life. But what this minifig is actually showing you is his post-redemption arc. This is Lord Business after he stopped being a villain, and apparently took up golf as his retirement hobby. He showed up a little bit in the second movie, but LEGO making a real version of him is just awesome. But which small detail surprised you the most in this video? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.